What's going on, everybody? John here with MachMotorsport, and today I am not in the Type R. That is right, I'm actually in another new car. Now, before you go blowing up my comment section, hear me out. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I was talking about how I was thinking about getting rid of the Type R. Now, it's not that the Type R is a terrible vehicle. As a matter of fact, it really isn't. I'm not going to knock the Type R, nor am I going to take anything away from it, because that car deserves all the praise that it receives, because it really is a terrific vehicle right from the gate. However, it just wasn't for me. And what do I mean by wasn't for me? I mean this visceral, responsive, knife-edge, precision-feeling vehicle. And that is why I bought this Mazda Miata. Tomato. This ND2 RF is amazing. I absolutely love this car. It all started when I went for a little joyride with my friend John Silva, who's got a really well done NA Miata that is tweaked for autocross, turbocharged, all the suspension goodies, and just all of the required bits you need to make an NA Miata fast on an autocross. And he took me out for a little joyride, and I was immediately hooked. I loved its nimble characteristics, I loved the short wheelbase, and I just loved how playful it was at the limit. And it really reminded me of cars that I owned in the past. My Del Sol, for instance, the S2000. These sorts of cars really brought out a lot of characteristics that you need to have in a driver's car. I can't explain it. It's something that you have to drive. You have to experience it. And if you watched any review on the ND Miata, you will know that this car is praised and loved by all sorts of journalists and critics alike. So I'm not going to bore you to death with all of the great features in this car. Bottom line is it's got a 2-liter engine, front engine, rear drive, 6-speed transmission, limited slip differential, and now for 2023 they've incorporated this new technology called kinematic posture control. What does it basically mean? Well, from what I understand in layman's terms, it just brakes the inside wheel so that it'll allow for quicker turn in and reduce a lot of the body roll that the ND Miata is known for. Unfortunately, this ND chassis, even with this car equipped with the sport package that includes these really nice Recaros, the Brembo brakes, the BBS wheels, and the Bilstein dampers, the ND Miata still suffers from a good amount of body roll. So in order to eliminate a lot of that, what they did is they applied this kinematic posture control, which again basically just applies a little bit of brake pressure to the inside wheel, allowing for the vehicle to not only turn in quicker, but to reduce that body roll when going around a corner. Now, is it completely eliminated? Not at all. I'm going down a windy road here, and let me tell you, it's quite evident it's there. However, is it better than before? Well, I can't say for sure because I've never driven an ND Miata except for this one, but what I can tell you is that it is quite controlled, and it does feel quite poised when it comes to the cornering on this vehicle. I don't feel like it's out of control, nor do I feel like the vehicle is moving in more of a direction than it should. It feels controllable and very responsive, but it definitely feels like I'm sitting on top of a pendulum. I feel everything moving back and forth. It's not quite as flat as, say, a stock AP1 or AP2 S2000, or even a stock 8.6 BRZ. I do find that there's far more motion in this vehicle than any of those. However, according to Mazda, that's what attributes to the playful nature of this chassis. It just moves, and it applies a lot of the momentum in through the corners, forcing all of the weight and energy into that corner so that it allows for, I suppose, more contact patch or maybe more adhesion to the ground. But when your vehicle is equipped with Bridgestone Potenza S001s, you're not really going to get an abundant amount of traction, let's be honest. However, in a track setting with stickier tires, I'm sure this vehicle is going to feel a little more controlled. Who knows? I've got my first autocross coming this weekend, and I can't wait to test it out. So what are my overall thoughts with the vehicle? Well, the thing about the Miata is it's not trying to pretend to be something it isn't. The reality is you're not going to take this vehicle, pick up the kids from school, do a Costco run while loading in your bulk paper towel in the trunk. It's just not going to happen. Mazda designed this vehicle to be a roadster, and that's exactly what it is. They wanted to provide the customer with a vehicle that is a fun driving weekend car that you can take for a spirited run in canyon roads. You can take it to an autocross or maybe a casual lapping event and still go on a little bit of a road trip and pack maybe 2 nights worth of clothing, because you don't have a ton of room in that trunk, to be honest. So how does this compare to my Type R? Well, it's like comparing apples to oranges. You really just can't. The reality is it's a non-comparison, and it's not even fair to compare the two vehicles because they're not even in the same category. And again, I'm not taking anything away from the Type R. It's a terrific vehicle that does 90% of everything you want it to do very, very, very well. Whereas the Miata, it's more of a specific vehicle. And maybe it's a coming of age for me, and maybe it's a couple of other things. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't really necessarily need one car that does everything well. I can get away with this as a weekend car. That was always the intent with the Type R. I initially purchased it to be a very good daily that was going to also do track work as well. But then once you start modifying and you go down that rabbit hole, I mean, you're essentially taking away all of the practicality of that car, and the streetableness of that car is really going away. So I was going to need a daily regardless. And when you're going to need a daily regardless, and I looked at what the resale value is of the Type R right now and what I could reclaim in terms of a trade-in, plus looking at all the modifications, it just occurred to me that maybe that wasn't exactly the best use of that vehicle or the resources that I had put into the vehicle. So where does that leave me now? Well, it leaves me behind the wheel of this little amazing car that is so playful. It is unbelievable. You can drive this thing at 10 tenths and feel like an absolute hero, but you're not going to put yourself nor others in danger because it's just not a life-threatening car. It really isn't. You're not moving at speeds that is, going to cause you all sorts of problems or, break any laws. It's just not going to do that. It provides a very playful nature, a very spirited little car that's going to provide you nothing but everything you want in a roadster. Nothing more, nothing less. You get exactly what you were hoping for. And that's the best way to describe this vehicle. So what are my plans for this moving forward? To be honest, am I going to go hardcore with it? No, not at all. You know what? Again, going back to maybe it's age and maturity, and maybe it's because I've had my fun in other areas, but I really don't want to go hardcore with this car. That wasn't the purpose, and that certainly wasn't the intent with the purchase of this vehicle. This vehicle was purchased so that it could be a fun weekend car, a fun summer car, a car that can serve many purposes. Its primary purpose is to put a smile on my face at all costs. So, in terms of modifications moving forward, sure, maybe it'll see some Öhlins coilovers because that seems to be the hot boy ticket for these vehicles right now. And maybe I'll do a very modest exhaust. Maybe, and that's a big maybe. I'm kind of getting over the loud cars and the obnoxious sounds and drone and all that other good stuff. I want a vehicle that I know I can confidently get behind the wheel, take it on a 3-hour drive, go to a racetrack, do a casual lapping event, and then drive back home and not feel like my back is broken and I need hearing aids. That's not what my intent is with this car. I really want it to be an enjoyable driver still. Something that I feel like I'm going to take out more than half a dozen times or maybe even a dozen times throughout a summer. I want to feel like I can take this to see clients and not feel embarrassed or feel like there's any sort of judgment coming my way because I'm driving some, riced out vehicle or some super modified vehicle that, clients are going to basically look at you and go, what the hell are you driving, man? So, and I want to be able to take this thing on a road trip with my wife and her not complain about how stiff it is or how loud it is or how low it is or how obnoxious it is. And as much as her comments bug me about the car because I feel like it's a personal reflection against myself, she's not wrong. And I found that specifically with my S2000. And so the idea here is really to create a very versatile vehicle that will do a lot of things. And more, like I said, going back to what I said before, more specifically, always put a smile on my face. And that's the goal. And I don't really want to deviate from that goal. The moment I deviate from that goal and I make a vehicle that now becomes obnoxious, or a vehicle that I don't look forward to drive because it's too stiff or too loud or whatever the case may be, then I've really gone away from the sort of idea behind this build. And there are so many options out there, but I want to just take this opportunity to point out the fact that Mazda has done a really good job with this vehicle right out of the gate. Aside from the super maybe bouncy, I find it kind of bouncy, but you know, tippy suspension in this that's maybe a bit soft or prone to rollover. Aside from that, I mean, they really have done a really good job here, and I don't think that you really have to improve on much. So that's the goal. That's where I'm at. Is it going to be fun and exciting? For sure. I think what I've got planned for this vehicle long term will be fun and exciting, but by no means is it going to be a hardcore build of any sort. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope you'll continue to follow along, and yeah, stay tuned. More driving videos to come, and my autocross.